Hi everyone, my name's Janelle. I'm a functional nutritionist who lives and plays in the Sierra Mountains, and this is my podcast where we talk about functional health with a mountain twist in 30 minutes or less. Today, I'm talking with my friend and licensed psychotherapist, Darcy Piceu, about mental health at midlife. Darcy is a well-known ultra-endurance athlete who has participated in over 100 endurance races and has won an amazing number of them. She shares with us how she works with people to reconnect to their inner healer, to stay or find balance and peace. Both Darcy and I have felt the midlife wobble and find this an important topic to discuss and bring normalcy to. We chat about reasons women's mental health can get rocked at midlife and what you can do to improve yours. I hope you enjoy this chat as much as I did. Welcome, everybody, and welcome, Darcy. I am super excited to have you here, and thank you especially for agreeing to do this with the quick turnaround after your Grand Canyon trip.
Of course.
Okay,
I'm excited to be here.
I'm so glad. Thank you. So when I was thinking about creating this podcast earlier in the year, you were actually one of the first people I thought about having as a guest. So I'm really
Oh,
happy it's happening.
yeah, me too.
Cool. You and I met, I think it was like around 20 years ago down in Silverton, where you and my hubby were running Hard Rock. So I originally knew you for your incredible ultra running, which you are obviously very well known for. And then much later, I learned about your work as a licensed psychotherapist to help people find balance and peace and flow in their lives, which I am finding is really important as hormones start to change in midlife. So my first question for you is, do you find in your practice and your friends and for yourself that in midlife, as hormones start changing, mental health gets rocked a little bit?
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. I think there are so many different factors also that are coming into play, right? I mean, not just the hormone. The hormones are a part of it, but then there's also a lot of different life changes. And I know like, we have if you have children, um they're also going through their own hormonal changes, so we're having to navigate that aspect with our families, and maybe you have aging parents, and so there's all of these different facets, I think, that can impact our sort of mood and our mental state at this point in life. So yes, absolutely.
I think
I
that's a
think
really good point. I love that you said that because I am usually so focused on, okay, estrogen's decreasing and progesterone's decreasing, and how do these impact our lives? But I think what you just said is, yeah, it's so true and important to acknowledge. And yeah, it makes sense that you would hear about this a lot from the people you work with. But if we have daughters going through hormone or sons going
mhm.
through hormone changes, like at the same time as perimenopause now, and that's like a sick joke.
It is, I keep saying that it's nature's cruel joke that,
Yes,
there's just a lot of hormones happening in the household right now,
yes,
and it can be a lot to navigate. And not to
totally.
even mention the changes that happen in the body, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because there's receptors not just in one or two places, but all over our brains, all over the
Mhm.
place for these hormones. And then, yeah, our aging parents. So that
Mhm.
can add a huge stressor to our
Absolutely.
lives. And cortisol is the bossiest hormone. So that baby can
Yeah.
throw everything else even to more of a tailspin.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I know for me, like at first in perimenopause, it was anxiety.
Mm.
I've never been an anxious person ever,
Mhm.
really. I have other things, but anxiety was not one of them. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I would just like nothing would even be going on, and I would just find myself anxious. And I feel thankful that I knew kind of, okay, wow, this is probably decreasing progesterone, which happens first.
Mm.
And then I know with decreasing estrogen, like more people tend to feel go the depression route if they're going to go there. I mean, not everyone
Hmm.
does, of course,
Hmm.
but for me it was anxiety.
Yeah,
So for the people you work with, are you seeing that, or tell me about that?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't specifically work with people in midlife
Right.
necessarily. I definitely have some clients
Hmm.
that are experiencing that. But absolutely. And I think too, right, I mean, sleep is also a huge factor. And I
Hmm.
hear a lot from different like people at the 40s to 50s that their sleep is really impacted. And
Yeah.
obviously, when we're not getting a lot of sleep, then that's going to impact our mental health. It's going to impact anxiety levels, all of those things. Like, we're not able to kind of, when stressors do come up in the daily, kind of life tasks, work, family, all of those things, that it's more difficult to manage those things when we're not getting enough sleep, and maybe we're also not getting enough exercise, all of the things.
And our blood sugar's changing, so that's going to impact our mental health.
Right. Yes.
It's like the perfect storm.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I saw a quote on your website. I'm going to
Hmm.
read it to you, and I want to hear about it. So you said, believing that you already have everything you need to get through the difficult times in your life is essential.
Hmm.
I loved that.
Hmm.
So I would love to know why you find that is important as someone who works with people in mental health.
Hmm. Well, and I think this applies to all of us, not just people in midlife, but just
Oh, yeah.
I think more what I'm speaking about is like connecting with our, what I call like our own inner healers, like that part of you, that all-knowing part of you that shows up like maybe when you have a huge decision to make in your life, and you have that, like, what we call maybe like the gut reaction of like, oh yes, this is what I want to do, or no, that doesn't feel right to me. Like, that's what I would kind of call as your true self or your inner healer. And connecting with that is, and knowing that that's there, and knowing that that never leaves you, even though at times it might feel like it does, or that we aren't connected to that. I think that's when we feel out of sorts, or we feel like things are in total disarray, when we're not connected to that core, that center part of ourselves.
Mm. So what do you think disconnects us from it?
I think all of the things that we're talking about, right? All of the stressors that we're talking about, we get pulled in all these different directions. And I think that the way that our culture is moving right now, the way that, right, we're sort of pushed to go and do and produce, and right, constantly be moving in this really sort of intensely high performing work world, that we lose connection to that. We stop remembering to slow down, like reminding ourselves that we need to slow down in order to reconnect with that part of ourselves. I think
Mhm.
we just get so caught up in the spinning of the mind and in life that it pulls us away from that part of ourselves.
And I feel like when I get super stressed, it's almost like it feels like survival to just keep spinning. Like
Hmm.
it feels
Yeah.
unsafe or something to slow down.
Yeah.
Like that's probably some well adapted thing that we have, for when we
Hmm.
actually are not safe and we can't rest. But like you said, our modern
Absolutely.
world just keeps us feeling like we're never doing enough. Like
Hmm.
we have to
Right.
keep earning money and signing up for things and going and
Hmm.
just running farther, all the things,
Right. All the
and
things.
taking care of
Yeah.
all the people and making sure everyone's okay. And then of course you add scrolling online or all of that, which we all
Right.
do. I mean,
Right.
I just feel like our nervous system sometimes just keeps us in that mode where it is really
Yeah.
hard to reconnect to
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely. And also I was thinking about this earlier, that the messaging that I think as we age, the messaging that we get is like, cover that up, like, don't, like, do everything you can to not show that you're aging, right? Like,
Oh yeah, there's more
and
stress.
then
Yeah.
that's more, right? Like, oh my gosh, like, and it's unavoidable. You
Mm,
cannot avoid the fact that you're going to age and your body's going to change and things are going to be different.
mhm.
But we're constantly being sent messages that we should do everything we can in our power to not allow ourselves to actually age and age gracefully.
Yeah, and that makes me so sad because I'm on this new
Yeah.
campaign to like re I don't know, to just reprogram everyone's mindset around this because I think
Yeah.
aging is amazing.
It's
And
amazing.
maybe not to be the same person and to go as
Mhm.
hard and to do everything the same, but to actually use all of these biological changes as an opportunity. It's almost like it's demanding us to reassess. And if we
Mhm.
don't, then we just feel horrible, or you know what I mean? I think
Right. Right.
everything
Yeah, I would.
suffers.
Yeah, and that was the other thing when when we were talking about this conversation before, is like, when we really suffer, and this is like in a lot of different sort of spiritual pathways, they talk about like when we're resistant to what's
Mm,
actually happening, that's when we
mhm,
suffer.
mhm,
So if I'm resistant to the fact that I'm aging and things are changing, and I'm, you know, who I am as an athlete is totally shifting, then right, if I'm not able to learn how to accept that and I'm more
mhm,
resistant to it, I'm just going to struggle and suffer even more.
mhm. Right. It's like so many layers of complexities, I feel like. Because
Yeah.
even for me, it's like we're in habits, like we do things a certain way for so long. And then I don't know
Hmm.
about you, but I find myself saying, okay, well, I don't think that's working for me anymore. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, and so that's a process. It takes time. Like I keep doing these old things and I'm
Yeah.
thinking, wait, I find myself in these situations. I'm like, how did I get here again? I don't want to be doing this anymore. Like, and so then
Yeah.
you have to
Same.
pause and think, okay, well, what do I want? And then you have
Mm.
to mindfully make new choices. Like it's tricky.
That's it. No, I think that's exactly it. It's like, and I do think when you allow yourself to slow down enough, you get to ask yourself the question, what do I actually need
Mm,
right now? And
mhm,
maybe the answer isn't like go climb a peak
mhm,
or work out really hard, or, go to work for 12 hours. It's like, no, I'm gonna take care of myself, and I'm gonna
mhm,
rest maybe a little bit more. Maybe I'm gonna sleep in instead of getting up at 4 in the morning. Like,
mhm,
I'm gonna pay attention to what my body actually really needs right now.
mhm. Right. Like it might have to look different, but
Mhm.
you want to align with it at least, if you ask
Mhm.
me. Like at least
Yeah.
not fight it or like give yourself the permission even to align with this new you.
Yeah, well, like a new way of being in the
Mhm.
world a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So what I heard you
Yeah.
say is you have this inner healer. And then I heard you say it's like the modern pace and all of these demands, it sorts of keeps us from accessing it. And then, so what are so ways we can tap in then?
Mhm.
So how can we tap in? I heard you say slow down.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
like what are
Yeah.
some tangible ways we can do that?
Yeah, I mean, the one that I go to most often, the one that I suggest more than anything else, is have some kind of a regular, consistent, call it whatever you want, mindfulness practice, meditation practice, breathing practice, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be spiritual. But just sort of even calling it like the art of non-doing,
Mm,
where you make it a routine for yourself to, for me, it has to happen first thing in the morning, but really find a time that works for you. Um, maybe set a timer, but just sitting and practicing being the observer, the witness to the thoughts and the stories and the like whatever is happening in your life at that point in time. You're practicing just being sort of like the observer of the thoughts.
Mm,
And when you find yourself spiraling or getting caught up in thought, you come back to your breath. And I say do if you can devote, 10 to 15 minutes minimum every single day to that. That's one strategy. I think it's one of the more important ones. I think also another tool could be having some kind of like a journaling practice and or gratitude
mm,
practice where you actually take some time to write down what things you are grateful for. I also have sort of like a intention setting practice, like what do I want the day to look like, or what do I want the
mm,
week to look like, things like that. Sort of like the power of manifestation. I'm a
mm.
huge believer in that and writing that down and working on creating what you actually want in your life, what you want to bring in your life.
I love that. And like how you want to
Yeah,
feel even. Like I
yeah,
could add that.
yeah.
Like, how do I want to feel this week?
Yes,
I like that. I
absolutely.
might have to start doing that. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, right, and we talked a little bit about this, but of course, like, if you are having issues with like hormone imbalance and things like that, like I think talking with friends and community that you trust, like
Mhm,
connecting with others is really important. I really believe
mhm,
that we are designed to be in community. So, like, if you have friends who are also going through something similar, like really connecting with them, talking with them about who they trust, who they, whether it's like nutrition, something like that you're really familiar with, like find a good nutritionist, find a good doctor, or maybe it's like a naturopath or some kind of functional medicine doctor that you trust, and find to help you kind of navigate this kind of wacky time.
yeah, so to learn about your body, that's what I'm a
Learn
huge
about it.
advocate.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
like learn what's going on, and I
Yeah.
think it's validating also to say, "Oh my God, okay, right. So that's changing. That makes sense because I feel that way." And thankfully, you and I were talking earlier that that
Hmm.
conversation is starting to happen.
Yes.
We're starting
Yeah.
to realize it's not just hot flashes and then no period. It's
Right.
like there's this
No.
whole
It's
process and everything is impacted, and blood sugar alone can make us feel awful. And there's so many parts. So I love that. So learn about your body, get a team. I love what you
yes.
said, open up with your friends. I mean, I think the more
Hmm.
honest and open we can be about all feeling wobbly is
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and you can feel kind of out of sorts and wacky and wobbly, and then feel okay the next day, and
Yeah.
it's
Or the
it's
next
hard
hour.
yeah, or the next hour, and it's really hard to understand it, it's really hard to navigate it, but that's where I think too, that slowing down bit and, like,
Mm,
being really gentle with yourself is so
hmm
important
hmm
because we have to give ourselves grace to flow through this period and not beat
hmm
ourselves up and
And
really
because you and
just
I both have teen girls, we
yeah.
give them a lot of grace. We give them a
Mhm,
lot of leeway, I think,
mhm.
when it comes to hormones changing and their whole world being rocked. And I feel like I'm always, biting my tongue and not saying what I really think all the time because I know it's
Mhm.
their hormones and they're all over the place and they're going to get through it. Well, it's the same for us. Like we
Yes.
have to give ourselves that space to say, I mean, of course, we don't need to scream at people and slam doors in their faces, but
Yeah.
like find other ways to express how we're feeling and acknowledge that this is a really big change and it's okay to
Yes,
wobble for a
absolutely.
while.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I don't know how long. I mean, for some people, it can last for years and years, right?
Oh yeah, well the
Yeah.
changing of the hormones can last, yeah, a long
Yeah, and
time.
and
So
I like that you said that it's so it's not a straight line. It's
right.
like There is no like, oh, that happened for this friend, and that's gonna. It's not. It's different for everyone.
It's different for everybody and so much
Mhm.
impacts it. But wait, I also wanted to double click on what you said. I loved you also mentioned gratitude practice
Mm.
being helpful. And I often do heart math practice where, you focus your attention around your heart space and you're grateful for something. And
Mm.
oh my God, that instantly transforms my biochemistry. I
Oh,
swear I
that's
can just
amazing.
feel so different, probably faster than anything else I do when I focus on one thing I'm grateful for. So I don't know anything, like I'm not a therapist, but that one feels really powerful. So I love that you
Yeah.
added that one in there.
Well, I think, like, you can even get scientific with that too,
Mhm.
I think, because, right, it's like whatever we pour our energy into is what
Mhm.
we're creating. Like,
Mhm.
if I'm pouring all of my energy into the things that aren't going well in my life, that's
Mhm.
probably more likely going to be what's all consuming for me, as opposed to
Mhm.
if I'm like really pouring my energy into, hey, I'm going to focus on, okay, even though right now it feels like there's all of these things that aren't going well, I'm going to still work towards putting my energy into what's actually going well in my life.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that when you put your energy into that place, it's more likely that that's what you're going to manifest and create for yourself. It's like positive energy creates positive energy.
Mhm. I love it.
Negative
I can like
energy
picture it.
creates negative. Yeah.
I'm visual. I could really picture that. I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I
powerful.
think about that a lot. And it's not always easy. There has to be self-awareness there that you are potentially going down that spiral of negative thinking patterns. And so it's definitely a conscious effort to shift focus. And like you said, like, and sometimes even like I like that you put your hand on your heart. Sometimes I'll
Mm.
do that, like
Mhm.
sort of like put my hand on my heart. And it's also really calming to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, we used to do that
Yeah.
to women in labor. It
Oh,
was really
nice.
yeah, that
Yeah.
really grounding.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, wow, I love that. I mean, those are really important things. So you said slowing down, breath work practice, and these are regular practices, right? Like I think
Mhm.
it's not like
Mhm.
you can just use them in the moment, I think, right? Is it
Right.
more you said
I think it's
schedule
about
this in 10 to 15 minutes a day,
every day.
these
Yeah,
every single day.
consistently. Yeah,
And
like a
that
routine.
provides the space so you can tap into that inner healer you were talking about, right?
And you're more likely when things start to feel out of control, you're more likely to go to that. It's
Mhm.
like if you're practicing it enough,
Mhm. Mhm.
then when things start to get out of control, you sort of, okay, wait, let me reconnect with my breath.
Mm.
Let
Mhm.
me like put my hands on my heart, try to calm myself down so that I can then like re-engage in whatever it is that's showing up.
And what do you explain this to me? So what's the line between how do I say this? Like not acknowledging how you feel. It's not like, if you feel upset and you feel bad, it's not like you're just saying, "Oh, only focus on the positive." Like what's the line there of like acknowledging the feelings you have, but then focusing on the positive? Am I making myself clear there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So
I
can you
think
explain that?
sometimes, yeah, no, and I appreciate you bringing it up because I think sometimes that like even in meditation practice, people will think, well, I can't turn my thoughts off, or
Mhm.
I can't get rid of the thoughts or the feelings that are arising. And it's definitely not about getting rid of anything. It's about
Mhm.
being present and with whatever's showing up. It's more about not attaching to and
Mm.
judging whatever's
Mm.
showing up. So, like, even, like, sadness or anger can arise in us, um, and we can be with that emotion or that feeling without necessarily attaching a story to it, or attaching to it and then judging it as good or bad. We can
Mm.
just be with it and, like,
Mm.
breathe through it in that moment. And
Mhm.
that's, I think, where that practicing being more of the witness or the observer to the thoughts and the stories that are showing up in some kind of a mindfulness practice can be really helpful. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not attached to the thoughts, if
You're
that makes
noticing
sense.
them. Yeah,
You're
no,
Yeah, you're
I think
noticing
that's
them, like,
great.
you're up in the bleachers watching
Mm,
the play down
mm-hmm,
below. The play is
mm-hmm,
the stories and the thoughts in the mind.
mm-hmm. Right. So noticing, I love that. So you're
Yeah,
not
I just
covering
kind
it
of
up.
you're not trying to cover
Right.
anything up. You're just not necessarily giving every thought that shows up the microphone to, like,
Right.
have a heyday in a
Yeah.
story.
Oh, I like that visual too. Not giving it the microphone. Let it walk
Yeah.
on. Notice
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yes.
Okay. I have two questions for you before we sign off. One of them, I'm so curious. I've always wanted to ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen you run a lot of races, which you are always kicking incredible ass at. Um, you always have a smile on your face, Darcy. I mean, like, you're like kind of
Not
famous for
always.
this, as well as so often you have a smile on your face. I'm like, doesn't she ever want to just tell people to F off? Like, what? Because like these are
Yes.
long, hard races. So is this an intentional thing? Like, just tell me about this a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think it became that through the years. I think that even and especially coming into aid stations, what I
Mm-hmm.
would do is I kind of you sometimes will see runners coming in and they're grumpy and
Mm-hmm.
they're just like outwardly showing that to their crew and
Mm-hmm.
people that are there to support them. And I sort of had this mentality of like, I'm coming into this place where there are people there that care and want to help and are like there to support. And I feel like no matter what, I'm going to show up with a smile on my face
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I, I just, well, sometimes smiling actually just makes you feel better,
Mm-hmm.
even when you don't feel like smiling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love this saying, but it's kind of like goes hand in hand with kind of faking it until you make it.
Right.
That
Right. Right.
sort of
Right.
mentality.
Well,
Yeah, and it changes I think the way that you're feeling internally, but then it also changes the way
mm,
that people are approaching you.
yeah.
And sometimes that can be what changes a race.
Yeah. That's brilliant. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you that for so long.
Yeah. Well, I think
Um,
you've seen me without a smile on my face, though. I think at Tour de Géance you saw
yeah,
me
there
with
were some moments. There
some
were
rough
some moments I remember.
moments.
Um,
Yeah.
but still, I most of the time
Yeah.
you're always looking pretty happy out there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is something you wish that everyone knew about mental health?
Hmm.
I mean, there might be a lot of things. This is kind of on the spot, but like, what's one thing you
Yeah.
could think of
I mean,
that
I
you
I think
wish?
really
Mhm.
it's something that I already spoke a bit about, that we talked some about, which was just that that part of you, that what I call the inner healer or
Mm,
your true self, it is always there. It never leaves you.
mm.
Um, yeah.
That just made me like soften.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
Because I think we all do. We all go to places, dark places sometimes. We all go through hard times. And it's the one thing that I always try to help people connect with is like that part of you, that all-knowing part, that part of you that's like at peace, that's
Mm,
calm. It's always in you. It
mhm.
doesn't ever leave, even when you're really having a hard time.
And our world makes it really hard to remember that. And you gave us some
Hmm.
really good ways to reconnect, some tangible tools to reconnect. So
I
thank
hope
you.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Darcy. I love this talk. I'm
Thank
so
you.
grateful to have you. And I can't wait to see, what's ahead for you as all of
Thank
the
you.
shifts happen.
Yeah. Thanks, Janelle. I just want to say I really appreciate that you are like bringing attention to this topic that we all go through.
We all go
And
through.
it's so important. So thank you so much for bringing awareness and educating people on the changes that we all go through at midlife. So
Yeah. Thank you,
thanks.
Darcy.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, hopefully we'll see you on a trail again sometime soon.
I hope so.
Thanks for joining me.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye. That's it for this week. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a comment and review, as that helps more people find out about it. You can find me and the courses I teach at mountainrebalance.com and on Instagram. If there's a topic you want to hear about, please reach out and let me know.